Good morning. We're at the very bottom of 26B, last slide. And we're going to digress into a number of statements about, well, you'll see. It's a digression. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, Yisa Adam Duma, it is better for a person to marry a Duma. Duma means, so Rashi says, is first words of Rashi are Nitenis, Beres, Bafikol al Miufel. She's got a bad reputation, that she sleeps around. So it's better to marry this woman with a bad reputation, rather than the daughter of someone who has a bad reputation. Shizuba mitipak shera, Zuma mitipak sua, because what are they suspected of? So the woman with a bad reputation, she is, perfectly marriageable, right? She was born like presumably we're talking about someone with a proper lineage, doesn't have any mamzer or any kind of flaw in her lineage, but it's her behavior that people talk about. But the daughter, if the mother is suspected of sleeping around, then the daughter is suspected of, not through her own faults, of course, but of being possibly a mamzer, right? Because what if this woman has already been married, or even if not, but if she was already married, and bore this daughter, maybe she didn't bear it to her husband. Maybe the father is somebody else, and then the daughter is a mamzer and is not permitted to marry other non-mamzer Jews. So it's better to marry the mother who has the bad rep rather than the daughter who may be innocent but had the misfortune of being born under this cloud of suspicion. Rabbi Yochanan says, he saw them busting, although he should know the opposite. Better to marry the daughter. Shazu omelas b'chaskas kashrus, v'zu ain't omelas b'chaskas kashrus, because at least the daughter, like, no one's proven that she's the daughter of another man, right? No one's proven that she's a mamzer. So you have to assume that, like everybody else, that her lineage is valid, right? But but um, but the mother, who has generated all these rumors about her, we no longer have the confidence that she is that she is faithful. Okay, it's a little unclear what the evidence is, but there's reason to believe that she's not as kosher as everybody else, not in terms of lineage, but in terms of her behavior. So that's the dispute here. So they ask a question on Rabbi Yochanan. No se adam duma. There's another brisa that says you can marry a woman who has a bad reputation, and if there's no evidence that she transgressed, then there's no reason for you not to marry her. You're allowed to. Rava says you think it means that brisa is telling you it's a good idea, that it's a recommendation. Our brisa is talking about, a value judgment, which is better, which is worse to marry, right? What are we advising you to do? But the brisa that you're trying to prove it from, where it says you may marry a woman with a bad reputation, it's not telling you that you should. Even Nasa, if he did, in other words, it's valid, right? So telling them about bastuma. So now we can also say, maybe it's the other way around. Oh no, it's it's our Bryce that he's commenting on. He's saying, like, not that the Brysa is advising you, just telling you what is permitted. So it is indeed in accord with the other Brysa. It says yes, from the as far as the law is concerned, you can marry either one of them, right? Because we're not talking about cases where they're whether behavior or lineage is proven or known. We're talking about rumor and suspicion. The bastuma, and the halacha is that it's better to marry the daughter in such a situation and not the mother. The Tani Rav Tachlifa Rav comment earlier. Rav Tachlifa taught Isha mizana if you have a woman who is adulterous, her children are still considered, unless you know for otherwise, the children are still considered not mamzerim. Rov bilo sakar bal, because we use the principle that mostly she's going to be sleeping with her husband. Does she stray? Maybe she did, but how do you know how this child was conceived? Since you don't know, you have to assume that the child is not a mamzer. The child was conceived from her husband. What if she's like really, really promiscuous? Can you still make this blanket assumption, this chazaka, that mostly she sleeps with her husband? Maybe what if it's apparent that that's not true? If you hold that a woman can only get pregnant close to the time that she has her period, then there's not a question. Because the husband doesn't know when the period is coming, and so he can't kind of be more careful or more vigilant about who she's with around that time of month. What the question is, that mostly women get pregnant around the time that they go to the mikvah after their period is over. So here was the question. Like, you don't know when your wife is going to have her period, but once she's had it, you know when it's over. Like, you know when she's going to the mikvah afterwards. So do we say that you know when that's happening, so you can be more protective or more vigilant about not allowing her to sleep with someone else? Or maybe, look, it's clearly she's not a woman who is being controlled by her husband. She sleeps with who she wants to sleep with. So then maybe we would say we do not follow the general rule that that mostly she sleeps with her husband, or we can assume that the conception came from her husband. So we don't have an answer to that question. It's interesting to contemplate. The Gemara, sometimes you get a view of an idealized society in the Gemara, but more often, in all kinds of ways, you get a much more realistic view of society. It comes, here we're talking about, it may be just, theoretical, as the Gemara always is, pushing the limits to tease out details of the law. So it proposes situations that are sometimes ridiculous or almost impossible. But also, it could be that the Gemara is recognizing that these things happen in life, in society, whatever, and you find that also with not without the same moral overlay, things of like Truma and Maser, or the Gemara well recognizes that most people don't keep those laws, right? So interesting to kind of imagine the world of the Gemara. Okay, so back to the Mishnah. Elusha based in these are the Mishnah had mentioned women who the court issues the warning to the Sotah warning to the woman on behalf of the husband, because the husband is unable to, for example, if he's insane or if he's locked up in jail or something like that. Tana Rabbah, the rabbis taught Ish. Ish. So it says Ish kistif steisha, a man whose wife strays. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Ish, a man. The Torah says a man whose wife strays. Ish. Actually, it says it twice. It says any man. Ish. By repeating the phrase in English, we would say any man whose wife strays. Well, why does it say any man? It could just say a man. L'Ravos Eishes Cherish. It's Ve'eshes Sotah, Ve'eshes Shamu. This is what it comes to include. These even the wife of someone who cannot issue the Sotah warning on his own, either because he's incapable or because he's not present. Beis Din can issue the warning if they see that this woman is, getting too close, too intimate with another man. they can issue on behalf of the husband the sotah warning. Um, Yachalach lashkosa. But it's not, but it's leposel ksubasa that they don't receive their ketubah. In other words, they're putting them on notice that, because you're suspected of cheating on your husband, you're not going to get your ketubah in case of death or divorce. So maybe you would think that actually the court could stand in for the husband through the whole sotah ceremony and have her drink the water and everything. When it says the man will bring his wife to the Kohen and go through this whole water ceremony, then it only says ish once, the man. So only the man does that. Only the husband can do that, not the courts on his behalf. Says, no, courts can even make her drink. So that when her husband gets out of jail or recovers from his incompetency, they can that the warning will work for if the husband then reappears or becomes competent, then he can bring her to the ceremony. So it's not that the court can bring her to the whole ceremony and make her drink the water. The court can issue a warning that the husband, if he's able, can later pick up on and follow through. But my commitment, so what's the argument here? Rabbanu Sabre Binan Bikine Vehevi. The rabbis who say no, that the court's warning does not suffice for continuing with the ceremony later with the husband. They think that Bikine Vehevi, when the Torah describes the sequence of events and the verbs it uses are Bikine, he warns her, Vehevi, and he brings her. So there's an equivalence there. In other words, only the party that warns her can bring her to drink the water. In other words, it has to be the husband both times. Whereas Rabbi Yossi suffered a little bit in the kinei behavior. Rabbi Yossi doesn't buy that. Right? He doesn't see the inference there, and it could be the court that warns her and the husband that carries out the rest of it when he's able. Rabbi's taught. Asherti stay isha tachas isha. It sums up the parsha by saying these are laws of where a woman strays from her husband. Lakish ish lisha bishal ish. So there's some wordplay going on here. Asherti stay isha, woman, tachas isha, under her husband. So there's an equivalence here that links them together. Lamayach says, "What are you talking about? In what way are they linked?" Just as if he's blind, he's not eligible to issue the sotah warning. Because when it's describing the wandering of the wife, the indiscretion of the wife, it says, and she's she's hiding it from her husband. And literally, it is hidden from the eyes of her husband. So if her husband doesn't have eyes that see, then it can't be hidden from his eyes. I guess like everything is hidden from his eyes, but she's not doing anything to hide from his eyes. So if he's blind, there's no sotah possible. There's no sotah ceremony. Similarly, and then we, from the equivalence of ish and isha, we apply that to the woman also. That for a blind woman, there's no, even if the husband can see, but if the woman is blind, then also there's no eligibility for the sotah procedure. Rashi Amar. Rashi says, "Kishem shechigeres v'gidemes lo yisasha." So just, and what about the other way around? Like, in what way is the husband like the wife? That we know, Rashi says that if the wife is lame, or if she's got a limb missing, deceived, and then she's enasha, so she's not subject to the ceremony. Deceived, because the part of the mincha that is brought, the Kohen puts on her hands. If she has no hands, she can't participate in that. That can't be done. So we exempt her from the whole ceremony. So likewise, if he's missing a limb, even though he doesn't have anything to do with the mincha, but by the equivalence of ish and isha, if the husband is missing a limb, he's not eligible to do the sotah ceremony. Mar Baravashi said, just as a woman who is mute doesn't drink the water, because she's required to answer amen to the Kohen when the Kohen announces the curse that if you drink the water and you're guilty, then you're going to die, etc. And she has to say amen, amen. If she can't speak, then she can't say amen. Then she's off the hook for the whole ceremony. So similarly, from the Ishisha equivalent, if the man is mute, even though he doesn't have to say anything in the ceremony, um, then the Sotah ceremony is off as well. Okay, so that's the end of that parak, and I have to go get my other volume. So bear with me 1 second. Sorry. Okay, fifth parak. Okay. So Kashem Shamayim Bodkinosa, Kachamayim Bodkinosa. This is very interesting. The Mishnah states that just as the woman is tested by, is this ordeal, the result of the ordeal applies to the woman. In other words, if she's been unfaithful, then she suffers the effects of the water. Kachamayim Bodkinosa. The husband, if I think it means if it, no, sorry, not the husband, but the man that she is accused of being unfaithful with, if he's guilty, if they're guilty, then he also gets feels the effects of the Sotah water. Shenemar uvo uvo, because when it says about the woman, the water will come into her and have these effects. It says it twice. Uvo uva. It says the word uvahu, it comes twice, once applying to the woman and once applying to her lover. Kishem Shasur Labal, just as the woman is, once she starts, once the Sotah ceremony or the Sotah procedure is started, she is forbidden to sleep with her husband. Kachasur Labal. And she's also prohibited to the other guy. So like obviously she's forbidden to the other guy. She's still married to the first guy, but if however, in whatever way the husband, let's say, dies or whatever, and now she's a widow and she can marry whoever she wants, but she can't marry this guy who she's been accused through the Sotah ceremony of having committed adultery with. Shenamar nitma v'nitma, from the word vinitma, and she becomes tameh. She is declared unfaithful. That it includes that she is forbidden to the other guy. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. That says Rabbi Akiva. Amar Bishua Kacha Yadar Zachariah ben Hakatsav. This is how it was explained by this Zachariah. Rabbi Amar, but Rabbi says. We actually have a different way of understanding these two words, nitma and vinitma. She becomes tameh or unfaithful, saying twice, echad labal v'echad labal. So basically saying the same thing. The Gemara will discuss, why is this being repeated in the Mishnah? On that day, so that day, this Mishnah comes from an incident when a well-known incident, it's a very dramatic incident where Rabban Gamliel was deposed as head of the head of the Shiva Yavne, and they replaced him with Rabbi Yeshua, his kind of nemesis there. And he was so Rabban Gamliel, was a very hardline type. He would only I think that one of the main points of the dispute was who was allowed to come into the yeshiva, come into the study hall. Rabbi Gamliel had a very high standard. Rabbi Yeshua was more populist. On the day that they finally deposed Rabbi Gamliel, everybody felt free to speak, as it were, and they enacted a lot of popular legislation, shall we say, that was opposed by Rabbi Gamliel. And here's some of the other things. That's when they had this discussion about that the waters also and the prohibition of marrying or sleeping with the other man was discussed. Another thing that was said by Rabbi Kiva on that day, completely different topic. Talking about we're talking about the laws of Tuma for a vessel. Just a second. Yeah. So if a dead sheretz falls into a clay pot, anything inside it inside that pot becomes tame. In other words, the whole interior of the pot becomes tame. It doesn't say is tame. It says will become tame. So latame acherim. That means that not only does the vessel itself become tame, but things in it can contaminate other things. It can transmit that tumah. Limit al kikar sheni. That teaches to you about let's say it's a sheni latuma, right? Remember, there are all these degrees of tuma. How far down the chain it's from the original source of tuma. So it tells you about if you have a loaf of bread that is a sheni latuma, shetime is a shlishi. That it and a vessel becomes tame from that loaf, then it can transmit a lower level of tuma to something else that's in there. Rabbi Yeshua says, if only who will disturb the dust on the eyes of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. In other words, if only Rabbi Yochanan was Zakkai ben here, Shahayisa Omer Asi Dor Acher Otar Kikar Shlishi, because he used to say, you know what, like I don't know how to make it looks like there is a third degree of tuma, but if only somebody could figure out how that doesn't apply, because it's getting ridiculous, right? This whole chain of tuma, how many levels you can keep track of. Why did he say that? Because there's no indication from the Torah that there's things that touch the dead body or tame and things that touch that. So there's only one more level. There's the Abba Tuma and Rishon Tuma in the Torah, but it doesn't go further than that. Hello, Rabbi Akiva, Samicha maybe lo mikra min Torah shutame, and Rabbi Akiva, it's like things are going the wrong direction. He's saying, like Rabbi Gamliel was hoping we could put an end to this endless chain of tuma, not endless, but this long chain of tuma that goes up to the fourth degree. And Rabbi Akiva is finding a verse of the Torah to establish that there is more transmitted tuma. So things are going in the wrong direction. Which is this drash that Rabbi Akiva just said. So we just quoted Rabbi Akiva saying that from the word yitma, will become tame, implies that there's further degrees of tuma. Another thing Rabbi Akiva said that day. So the Torah discusses the boundaries of the cities. The Levim were given 60 cities? Can't remember. 40 cities? I think 40 cities. Everybody else was given agricultural plots of land, but the Levim, they weren't supposed to be farmers, so they were given cities. And the cities, Torah says you should measure around the city 2,000 amma to like determine the borders. So one place it says to the east 2,000 amos, and the other place it says 2,000 amos around. I'm sorry, the other place it says 1,000 amma around. So it can't be just contradictory. You can't say 1,000 because we already said 2,000 amos to the east. We have Shalom Alpine, Mamashapar, there were Elefami, because like there's a contradiction here, the 2,000 or 1,000 around the city that's included in the territory of the city. Okay, so how do you explain it? Elefama Migrash Velpaima Tzum Shabbos. We're talking about the 1,000 amos is the open space around the city that's part of the city, and the 2,000 amos refers to the Tchum Shabbos, like the distance from which you can walk and still be considered in the city on Shabbos. Okay, so the 1,000 amos is green space, right? There had to be some parkland around the city. That's 1,000 amos, and the 2,000 amos belongs to the city in the sense that there's no restrictions on how the land can be used. There's no zoning, but in terms of municipal boundaries, in terms of the Shabbos boundaries, how far from the city you can walk, that's 2,000 amos. Rabbi Lazar ben Osho, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar says, Elef Amma Migrash Ve'alpaim Amma Sotah Sukrami. No, it's nothing to do with Tchum Shabbos. Obviously, everybody knows that Tchum Shabbos has nothing to do with the fact that it's a city of Levim, right? It's any city has a 2,000 Amma boundary for Tchum Shabbos, but the 1,000 amos is the open space, the parkland, and then the 2,000 amos is Sotah Sukrami. That's where you could have orchards or whatever. So the Levim maybe weren't farmers, but they in that space around the city they could have orchards and fields. Another thing taught by Rabbi Akiva on that day. Referring to the song at the Red Sea, the splitting of the sea. Shein Talmud Lomar Lamar. What is this word Lamar, which you often find by the Rav Shalom Moshe Lamar, which often is translated God spoke to Moses saying, or here it's Moshe and the Jews and the children of Israel sang this song to God, and they said saying. Like, what is the verbosity here of the word Lamar? What is the meaning of that word? That means it was responsive. They were saying, Moshe sang, and they repeated. Kikaran Sahalel, like reading, like we do when we read Hallel. Hodel Hashem Kitoki Leon Chazdo is a responsive reading. That's why it uses the word saying. Rabbi Nehemiah Omer Kikarin Shema, below Kikaran Sahalel. They read it like people read Shema and not Hallel, meaning not necessarily responsively, but together. But we have Darsh Rabbi Yeshua ben Hyrcanus. Same day, Rabbi Yeshua ben Hyrcanus taught, Lo avad Iyov as a Kosh Baruch Hu Elamei Ava. By the way, it's unclear, like, what do all these things have to do with the dispute of Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua, the deposition of deposing of Rabbi Gamliel. It just seems like there was a lot of activity that day. It was a big upheaval, the culmination of a long power struggle, and I guess there was a lot of discussion, or maybe things were remembered better or whatever. There was all these things came up. Bobaya. So Rabbi Shimon Hyrcanus taught, Lo avad ivas Baruch Hu el me'ava. And as you can see, we're going from more halachic concepts to more agadic concepts. Job, served God from love. Shanamar Heinik Taleni Lo Ayachel. As says, even if he kills me, I will still yearn for him. By the chuckle. But that's not conclusive, that verse. Lo ani mitzapa or any mitzapa. Doesn't mean the word lo, right? Could, depending how it's spelled, it can mean to him I will hope or I will not hope, right? Lo is a what's the word for word that has two meanings? Whatever, can't remember. So Talmud Lomar, so we have a further indication. Ad egva lo yasir tumasi mimeni. Until I die, I will not remove my purity, my wholeness from me. That's only from someone who serves God out of love. Unclear to me what the what why this verse is any better. First of all, uh, yeah, like I don't get the meaning of this verse at all, but then I don't understand the meaning of any of the verses in Eo. So why should this be any different? Um, but the Gemara takes this as a indication that of Eov's love for God, despite all the suffering that was inflicted on him. Amar Yeshua. Yeshua says, "Mi Yagala from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai." If only Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai were here. Shayisa Doresh Kol Yamecha Shlo Aved Eov V'Samachim El Miyira. You insisted that Eov served God out of fear of punishment. Shanamar Ish Tavi Yashav Yirei Leibn Sar Meira. It describes Eov at the beginning as pure and wholesome, and feared God and the Sar Meira and avoided evil. So from this verse, it seems like he is the Sarme Ra means that he avoided evil, but you can also interpret it as being why did he serve God? So that he would avoid evil, right? So he would avoid punishment, right? That was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's interpretation, but Rabbi Yeshua is teaching that the opposite from this other verse. That Eov taught or served God from love and not from fear. And that is the end of that very long Mishnah. And what do you know, we're at the bottom of the page, so we will leave it here for tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, Dov.